Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. I was just reading this book, Slapstick. It's by Kurt Vonnegut. I've read it before, not to brag, but I do know how to read. And you know who else knows how to read? Librarians. Librarians know how to read. And I thought, you know what? Librarians are having kind of a rough time right now. What if we made a little tiny bunch of books and left it in the library? What if we made a tiny little bookcase and put the tiny little books in the bookcase and put that in the library? Maybe some librarian would find it and think, this isn't organized by the Dewey Decimal System. This was organized really poorly. It's just by the first word of the book. That's, you know what, that's something they have to figure out. But maybe they'll see it and just go, oh, look, a tiny little library. I love it. So happy for 1 second. Maybe something like that. Okay, that's what we're going to do. I have read this book. Okay, I have read it. I didn't invent either of the processes I'm going to do today in these videos. I didn't invent them. Okay, I know what you're going to say. There's no way you didn't invent this. I didn't. I got one of them, the bookcase. I got that from an actual book. Shout out to books. And then the second one, this what I'm showing you here, how I make these little miniature books. That's actually from a YouTube video. So I'll link that down below. Check those out if you want a more in depth. She tells you like measurements, stuff like that. I tried to go off of just kind of eyeball measurements, which wasn't a great. It wasn't a great process all around. At all for me. So don't do that. I also wanted to make, instead of just like a book, I wanted to make penguin cloth bound books. You know, those like that were kind of cool a couple years ago. Everybody was like, I'm going to make my own Penguin Classics books with my own designs. And, you know, they got the crickets out. I do the same thing, but in miniature form. So that is the process that I'm doing here. I ended up making 6 books in total. So this is the last book. It's Little Women. Okay. And I do have some mistakes in here. Tell me if you can see them, because you will notice some changes. Things like I made it pink and then I had to change it to blue. That's the biggest one. So I made 6 books. Little Women was the last one here. I also did Stuart Little, Little House on the Prairie. What else? Little Man by James Baldwin. Little Fires Everywhere, and The Little Friend, which was by Donna Tartt. So some of them are like adult themed books, not just kids books. And that's how I was proving to the librarians that this is not a children's toy. So that was the way I was proving that. The thing that I wanted to mostly talk about with this video, though, is not how I did these things, but what was going on the week that I did this stuff. On Saturday night, I was getting ready to go out with some friends to go see a movie, and I was putting on a little lipstick, little lippy stick, and I went to put my lipstick on and move my mouth around. You know how you do that when you put lipstick on, you kind of blend it in a little bit with your mouth. And I found that it was really kind of hard to do that. I thought that was weird. I don't know what's going on. That's a little bit weird, but my mouth wouldn't work right. There's no other way that I can say it. It just wouldn't move the way that it's supposed to move. And I thought, oh, that's weird, but it's probably, I don't know, whatever it is. Didn't really pay anything attention to it. Went out, saw the movie. We went out for fries afterwards, ate some of the fries, and I said, hey, these fries don't taste right. Like they don't taste right. My friend said to me, you don't have COVID, do you? And I was like, no, I don't feel bad at all. This fries don't taste right. So I don't pay any attention to it. And the next day I go to an art exhibit, which you're going to see in a little bit. I did a little dance because of the way the art exhibit was. You could see your shadow, and I thought it kind of looked cool. It kind of looked like birds. So that's coming up. You'll see a little dancing around, a little ballet from yours truly. And whenever I went to brush my teeth, I noticed that when I was getting ready to go again, and I noticed that whenever I rinsed my mouth out, the like water was squirting out of my mouth, and I was like, that's weird. Like when you're washing the water out around your mouth, like you're rinsing your mouth out, you swish it back and forth. And I did that, and whenever I did it, water would come out of my mouth. And I had kind of noticed that maybe I was eating a little weird too. So I asked the guy I lived with, I was like, do you know what I eat like? And he was like, no. No, not really. I was like, oh, okay. Because I feel like I'm eating really weird. But I didn't know if I was like self-conscious or something was happening. So I kind of didn't pay any attention to it. That night I showed him how when I rinsed my mouth out, water was like a fountain. I was like, oh, this is kind of funny. Okay, sure, whatever. The next morning I woke up and my eye was really swollen. and watering. It was just constantly watering. And I thought, oh, that's really strange. Here's the dancing first, though. Here comes the dancing. Yeah. So this is just like a little bird dance. Anyway, I really recommend this art exhibit. Here comes ADHD that I don't have and I've not been diagnosed with, but you know, I like to go all over the place. Tangents are my friend. Anyway, so my eye was really swollen and I decided, oh, this might be something. I have really terrible insurance, as most artists do, and I decided I would go to the urgent care because all of my friends were like, yeah, this could be something super serious. You should go to urgent care. I went to urgent care and they had said, oh, yeah, like I can kind of see something. There's a little bit of a droop on your right side, but you need to go to the hospital and the ER and get some CT scans done to make sure that you didn't have a stroke or anything. And she did some tests on me just to make sure, and just baseline kind of tests, and I didn't have any symptoms of stroke besides this face stuff. So I will, spoiler alert here, I didn't have a stroke. So I'm totally fine in that regard. But I ended up going to the emergency room, which was the first time I've had to do that for myself, and did the CT scan, and they said, yeah, you just have a little bit of Bell's palsy. I didn't know that you could have just a little bit of Bell's palsy, but apparently you can. And because I'd noticed symptoms like 3 days beforehand, they were like, oh, I don't think it's going to get any worse. So that's what happened. I do also want to talk about this process. So when I did this little stain and paint on these boxes, I used this kind of water process, and I don't do it. It completely warped all of the wood. It's all balsa, so I just don't do that process. And everything popped open. I had to reglue everything. Nothing was right. Everything turned out really crooked. And that's what happens with that. So anyway, when you see my face coming up in the next couple of clips, when I do actually talk to camera again, you will probably notice, you might notice, I notice it. No one else really notices, it seems. But there is a little bit of a droop on my right side, and my eye doesn't close as well as it should. This is all to tell you guys to take that stuff seriously. If you do have something, you know, your nose is twitching a lot and you think maybe it's caffeine, but it actually isn't, which is what I thought. Go see a doctor, go see urgent care, and I'll send you to get checked out to make sure nothing more major happened. And I was very lucky that I don't have a severe case of Bell's palsy. It's just a small case, and who knows when it'll go away, but it's still around now. Might be around for a week, might be around for a few months, might be gone tomorrow. Who knows? Who really knows? And who knows how these things work? But here's a little bookcase. Isn't that cute? Hopefully it'll bring some joy to some people when they find it, stumble upon it, a little whimsy, a little joy, a little delight. That's all we're trying to do here. Just some kindness. I'm nervous. We're going to go deliver this thing. My biggest fear is that they're going to say, oh, look, a child made this. I think if I wasn't so, let's call it ambitious, I was originally just going to make one book. I made a set of books, and then I was like, well, I just can't deliver a set of books. I gotta have a whole thing, right? I have to have a bookcase. I made the bookcase, and it looked pretty bad. Now I have this whole thing, and it still looks like a kid made it. If I just made like, here's just paper and it looks like a book, it would have been fine. But I had to go, let's make a Penguin Classic cover. I'm a straight fool. But anyway, we're gonna deliver this little bookshelf and little books to the library. Now, I do know someone who works at the library, so I'm wondering if he'll find out that this thing was there and then ask me about it, because he kind of knows I'm doing this little project, or if not. I'm nervous. Plus, I'm gonna be doing this one by myself. I don't have my camera guy with me this time. If they don't like it, they can just throw it away. And I'll never know, and I'll never know. I'll never know. All right, here we go. So I found a small area that no one is in, so I can talk. You have to be really quiet in the library. I forgot. Anyway, this place is really, really open. I don't know where I'm gonna hide this. There's that was super scary. because the whole library is just like wide open. I was kind of really terrified I would run into Joe too, because it was so open. I did not run into Joe. I put it in the LI fiction area. We'll see what happens. If anything happens, I'm thinking probably nothing will happen with this one. But you know what? We made little books and we put them in the library. So this could be the end. Maybe there'll be a follow-up. Maybe not. It's going to be really hard for me to say, hey Joe, anything weird happened at the library the past week? No, not really. So, it's been several days and we haven't heard anything from the library. And by heard anything, I mean see anything on social media or hear from Joe. So either the janitor threw it away or someone found it and took it. So that, all right, you know what? I haven't heard anything. I'm not seeing anything on social media. I'm just going to tell Joe. I kind of debated whether I should tell the person that I'm giving them this thing. And I went back and forth. And the last video, I was like, I'm not going to do that because it's not good enough to be like, here, I gave you this present. It's more just supposed to be like a little whimsical fun thing that they found, and it's a little surprise and, you know, brought them a little joy for a little bit. Really debated, and I decided, no, not going to tell them. So then with this one, I really found that, yeah, I don't want to tell people in the future, because what I did was text my friend Joe, who works at the library. And I said to Joe, I snuck into your library the other day and I left a miniature bookshelf, but now I'm worried that maybe someone thought it was trash. And Joe says, if someone notices it, I'll most likely get put in the lost and found. Where did you leave it? At this moment, I was like, oh, Joe thinks that I was working on this thing and I accidentally left it at the library and it's mine and I'm looking for it. But that wasn't the case. So I was like, well, I have to clarify that. How do I do that without being like, no, I left it there for you guys to find. Here's this great thing. He asked where I left it. I said, it's next to the LI books on the second floor. And then I said, I left it on purpose. And then I sent a video of me placing it on the shelf and where it was. He comments not that long after, it says, it's still there. And then sends a picture of the bookcase. And I said, oh, wow. And he says, looks great! Exclamation point. And then I said, thanks. Maybe someone will find it and stumble upon it someday. That's what happened with that. So that really proves to me that no, we should not tell people that we're leaving these things for them. Because then it's kind of like, oh, I have this thing now. Instead of like, oh, look at this little whimsical thing. It's much more fun that way. I think we learned a couple of things. One, don't go to a giant bureaucratic institution like a library. And I don't mean to say that in a disparaging way, that the institution is giant bureaucratic. I mean, you know, just there's enough people that there's layers of people. The custodian could have found it and thrown it away, or, you know, someone who's just perusing the books could have found it and thought, oh, this is a kid's toy and put it in the lost and found, like Joe said. Also, it got brought up to me that maybe this is kind of cool. People who are walking around the library might find it. It might bring a lot of people a little bit of joy when they're walking around the library and see it. So we need to stick to small businesses. And then the other thing is that we know now, don't tell people. Don't tell people. We don't tell people. We put these little videos out, but don't tell people. We've got another one in store. I know what I'm going to do next. I'm pretty stoked on it. And I think it's going to be a good one. Small business. They're active on social media. That's what we want. If you like this video, like it. Girl, go ahead and hit the like. If you want to subscribe, I wouldn't be mad at you if you did. I would not be mad at you if you subscribe. Until next time, you gotta sprinkle a little happiness, baby. Put it out in the world.